Welcome to the Chronically Healthy Life show. When you hear the word chronically, do you automatically associate it with chronic disease? We all do. It's been programmed right into us. But what if we flip that whole idea on its head? Let's discover how we can create chronic health in our bodies, our minds, our finances, our relationships, and of course, in our lives. Welcome to the place where chronically means healthy, wealthy, joyful, and ridiculously alive. Let's flip the script together. So, tonight we're talking about something most people don't really think about until they desperately need it, and that's health insurance. But our guest tonight, Robert Young of Magnolia City Insurance, doesn't just sell plans, he helps people protect their future, their families, and most importantly, their peace of mind. Hi, Robert. How are you?
I'm great, Andy. Thanks for having me on. I very much appreciate it. Enjoying being here.
I love it. I love it, Robert. So, for our viewers meeting you for the very first time, can you tell us what exactly do you do at Magnolia City Health Insurance?
Well, I build health security for, my clients.
Mhm.
That's what I do. I don't just sell people plans. I create relationships with my customers. Once they're my clients, I plan to be around for a long time. I'm their first client. I'm their first contact. When they sign up with me, their first call, if they need to file a claim, if they have a question to find a doctor, if they're going on a trip and in another city and want to know where a facility is, a doctor, hospital, clinic of any sort, any
Mhm.
kind, they should give me a call. They should use me. They're not calling a 1-800 I don't know you number, and then all of a sudden
Right.
they're waiting for 45 minutes to talk to somebody who they don't know and doesn't care, and it's going to give a script and transfer them three different times to somebody else. They're calling me to help them get the full benefit of their policy so they can, whatever task at hand, or and usually if they're using their poly, they're a little excited,
Mhm.
and they need to be able to count on somebody that they're gonna get, the service that they need right away. And that's a little bit old school. You don't necessarily find that in this day and age with a lot of people, and even a lot of people in my company, even, but certainly in this industry,
Mhm.
they're just looking to sell you a policy, wipe their hands, and they're gone. Hey, call this 800 number and don't bother me. But that's not me at all. I wasn't
That's
raised that
amazing,
way.
Robert. To me, it sounds almost like you're a concierge health insurance person, right? Um, from my understanding, because we met over coffee and I love our conversation. You had a pretty long career in large corporations and business ownership. What made you step away from all that and step into health insurance and help people do what you do now?
Well, I was born and raised in Houston, with the sounds of Love You Blue on the Buffalo Bayou and Astros and everything. I consider myself a true Texan, and I lived that up quite a bit
Mhm.
proudly. A lot of people who know me know that. As you said, I worked for Citibank. I worked for Dell, some major corporations. I and those corporations, it takes a certain type of person to work in
Mhm.
those big corporations. You do something for them, you get a pat on the back, you
Mhm.
may get a bonus and everything else, but you're always working over your shoulder because there's somebody else trying to do a better job there for that. So it takes a certain type of individual. Eventually, I got laid off at Dell,
Mhm.
just because of the environment, the economic environment and the way things work. So that put me out in the world to say, okay, I want to be a business entrepreneur. So I tried real estate, tried a few things,
Mhm.
but ultimately, what led me to health insurance is an experience that I had on August 4th, 1984.
Love it.
Um,
I want to hear
yeah,
this story. This story
yeah.
is so powerful.
So I was in the best shape of my life. I was
Mhm,
a college lacrosse player, 150 pounds. I could bench press, over 300 pounds. I could run a 4.4 40. Uh,
wow.
I could kick anybody's ass. I had confidence beyond belief. I went to summer school, and between summer school and fall break, on August 4th, we
Mhm.
went out to a friend of mine's ranch, and we were having fun. I was indestructible. I was
Yes.
good looking. The girls liked to play with my blonde hair. It was all of the above. It was good, but too many of us got in a CJ7 Jeep,
Mhm,
and we went down, this mountain hill, whatever you call it, and there are deep ruts there. And
mhm,
we were going 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. We weren't speeding or anything
mhm.
else, but the Jeep was top heavy. I was sitting in the passenger seat, and it rolled, and it took off my right arm.
Oh my God.
And we were in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
Mhm,
literally nowhere, an hour from the nearest gunshot wound hospital in Uvalde.
mhm,
And that night, I almost lost my life. I lost
mhm,
5 pints of blood. Went to Uvalde, bleeding everywhere. A girlfriend, not my actual girlfriend, but she had the
mhm.
wherewithal to stick her finger on my artery to keep me from bleeding out. And my
Wow.
other, longtime friend, they all picked me up and took me to the gunshot wound hospital, speeding like crazy
Mhm,
to get into Uvalde. And the cops were chasing us, and he yelled at the cops, "Hey, we got somebody hurt." We
mhm,
went into the emergency room, and I remember looking at one cop pulling my friend out of the driver's seat, and then the other cop went to pull me out,
mhm.
and he saw all the blood and fainted. And that's kind of the
Wow.
last thing I remember, is that he faded, and they
Mhm,
took me in there. Eventually, I went to San Antonio, and then back in my family moved me to Houston, because that's where I was born and raised. And
mhm.
that started a long, arduous process. I had 38 operations.
Oh
I
my
had
God.
concocted gangrene at that point
Mhm,
because just a little bit of dirt got in that wound, but you didn't
mhm,
have any blood circulation into it. So thankfully, my family had the foresight and the wherewithal to have, the best health insurance money could buy in 1984,
mhm,
and it had a $7 million cap. And crucially, that made a big difference for my family to get
mhm,
me back on my feet again. And I had a very, very strong family. I had an extremely strong mother. I mean, she
mhm.
was the one I credit to getting me through that. She wouldn't let me feel sorry for myself. Believe me, all that you there were times that
Yeah.
were pretty dark,
Mhm.
and she wouldn't have it. She's like, nobody in our family, feels sorry, so you just keep plowing away. And she did. And I had, strong family, good friends that would come and visit every day. And then there were times, you get cabin fever in the hospital and you feel like,
Yeah.
okay. So, I mean, I even snuck out of the hospital one time to go get a Wendy's cheeseburger. I got a couple of nurses in a lot of trouble because I did that. So I'm a bit of a charismatic individual. But so that led me to eventually get into, that's my why.
Yes.
Because, 20 years old, being in great shape, I
Yeah.
got now, they wanted to cut off my arm. I wouldn't let them. I was like, no way, you're not
Yeah.
cutting off my arm. And
Exactly.
so I
Well,
kept my
before we
arm.
go any further, can
Yeah,
you raise your right arm up so our viewers can
yeah,
see that you
they
still
can see
actually
it.
have your arm?
Yeah, I have my arm. You can see how it's a little unformed and everything
Yeah.
else. And I can stick it through a coat sleeve and jacket and look normal. I have to shake people's hand with my left hand, and some
Mhm,
people look, I want you to do with your right, and then they figure it out.
mhm,
But I look pretty normal. The best thing that I did, and my doctor I had this physical therapist,
Hmm.
and she was really good looking, and she'd sit there and play with my hands and everything else. And hell, it didn't do anything to help my physical therapy, but I let her play with my hands all day long just because she was pretty.
Yeah.
And then the doctor said I could get my hand wet, take a shower and everything
Right.
else. But once he said that, I got in the pool
Hmm.
and I started swimming 3 times a day. First, I just walked
Nice.
around, but I had
Hmm.
bad bursitis in my shoulder. I could
Correct.
barely lift it. But then all of a sudden, I came back a week later and he's like, "What did you do?"
Hmm.
Because I could move my arm. I was like,
Right.
"Doc, I got in the pool. I started swimming, and
Hmm.
I would end up swimming. It started out a mile a day, and then eventually it was like 5 to 6, 7 miles a day, and I would do it,
Wow.
swim, 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 because I love to swim. But that's what my physical therapy was, and got me back, and got my mental capacity back. And I
Hmm.
was back in college, a year later, and I wasn't playing lacrosse anymore, but I was the coach. I came
Correct.
back and was the coach of lacrosse, and
Hmm.
my brother was playing, and I ended up having a lot of fun in college. It was good. I wouldn't let it bring me down.
I love it.
But
I love it. So.
so I tried a lot of businesses, but
Mhm.
that's my why. Once
Yeah.
I sold Aflac for a long time, and that was supplements on that, and that wasn't the whole ball of wax. And
Hmm.
then somebody interviewed me and said, "Hey, why don't you come? You've been an entrepreneur, you've done that. Sell
Hmm.
health insurance. Now you can do the whole thing. You can actually help people," which is kind of our slogan. It's called
Hmm.
Hope, helping other people every day.
Wow.
And that's what we do. We have an assignment, a hope. We don't sell people, it's health security. We can't help everybody, but we try to help as many people as we can. And the health insurance that we do provide, it's the best on the market. And I don't
Mhm.
say that just because. I make it better because I go with my policies
Correct.
and I explain it to, because there are some situations where the doctors or clinics or hospitals, they screw it up. They're
Hmm.
people just like us. The billing is wrong, and my office looks at the billing, and we get all clients in here and like, "Hey, this is wrong." And like, and the most common one is food poisoning.
Hmm.
Food
Hmm.
poisoning, they go to the restaurant, all of a sudden they're sick, and they go somewhere, and food poisoning is actually an accident. Well,
Wow.
on our
Okay.
plans, accident is a $250 deductible as opposed to a sickness, which can be a $13,500 deductible. And if you're a client, that's a big difference.
Hmm.
So we identify that. And when we identify that, we're heroes. So
I love that.
there's my why.
I love that because when it comes down to it, you explained it a little bit already, but most people, they don't
Mhm,
know too much about health insurance. So you know why don't you quickly share before we go into our first break?
mhm.
Why do most people need guidance in seeking health insurance rather than buying the cheapest one and figuring it out themselves?
Well, the easy answer to that is we're experts. We look at it every single day,
Hmm.
and it's like, if you use a I don't know, a real estate for a petroleum engineer,
Hmm.
to go drill a hole in the ground. I
Correct.
know nothing about that. If I'm all of a sudden to get in the oil business, I'm going to get a petroleum engineer to do that the right way. Or, for buy a piece of real estate, I'm going to get a real estate broker to tell me, how to buy this particular piece of property the best way to do it, because they are the expert to
Hmm.
do that and know the ins and outs, and potentially save me money to buy it the right way.
Hmm.
Same thing with health insurance. It's not rocket science. If somebody spends a lot of time and learns the ins and outs of it, then they're going to know it. That's why they should have, a consultant like myself or an expert
Hmm.
on health insurance, just like anything else.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So as you can see, Robert's not coming at this from just theory, like most people just selling health insurance. He's coming from lived experience, right?
Mhm.
From your
Yes.
story, from everything that's happened, how you see the value of how, health insurance have changed your life, right?
Yes.
And
It
how,
has.
the right coverage can change the outcome of any crisis, right? But we'll be right back with Robert right after this short break.
All right.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
Why do 98% of beauty enthusiasts rave about coolness? It's all in the blend of ancient wisdom and modern science. Introducing Coolness, Pearlescent Face and Eye Serum Cream. This powerhouse combines the antioxidative power of schisandra berries, the glow of pearl powder, and the hydrating wonders of dragon's blood extract. It's like a time machine for your skin, making it radiant, firm, and oh so smooth. Inspired by ancient Chinese traditions and backed by modern nutritional science, this serum cream is perfect for dry, mature, and aging skin. It's time to unlock your inner glow with Coolness. Treat your skin to the best of both worlds today.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life Show. Uh, Robert, in this second segment, I would love to get into the stuff that people usually don't know until it's too late. Because, let's just be honest, when it comes to health insurance, it can feel very confusing, especially with the copay. Like I had a whole conversation with you, and it can be a hot mess, how to use the life insurance, the health insurance and everything. So let me ask you this. First big question I'd love to hear from you is what is the biggest thing people misunderstand about what their health insurance actually covers?
Well, I think the biggest thing that people misunderstand about what health insurance does and does not cover, um, it kind of, that's kind of a two or three prong question.
Right.
So if you're a small business owner, you
Hmm.
know, and that's really our key market,
Hmm.
of what I try to have is small business, because small businesses, need to be able to offer health insurance to their employees, not
Hmm.
only to retain employees, but to attract other employees. But our health insurance are individual plans.
Hmm.
Okay, so individual plans, by offering individual plans, that means they don't have to get group health insurance. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and that's a big plus. In group and health insurance, you often have to have a minimum number of, 4, 5, 6 employees. I'm not quite sure. It
Hmm.
kind of varies from different health. So the other thing about that may be is, in a group plan, they don't cover 1099 employees. They don't cover part-time employees. They do cover W-2 employees. Those are
Hmm.
usually the only ones they do cover. we cover them all. We cover temporary employees. If you hire a temp to
Mhm.
do for if you we cover W-2 employees, and we cover 1099 employees. So our plans are also good on or off the job. Okay,
Mhm.
so what does that mean if you're an employer? That means you don't have to file a workman's comp claim and wait for that
Mm.
to be processed, which is huge.
Right.
In the state of Texas, it doesn't require you to have workman's comp insurance, so that's pretty big there too. Other
Mhm.
states outside of Texas do require you to have workman's comp, but and that's a big expense to employers if they need that. So in the state of
Mhm.
Texas, you can just sign that when you're getting eligible. Hey, I've already got this covered, and sign the waiver. So that's a big deal.
Mm.
Sometimes on the jobs they may require you to do that. So that's a little bit of a gray area there.
Right.
Um, but that's a big thing. The other thing about ours, open enrollment, and I'm going to be blunt here. Open enrollment is a scam,
Right.
done by by the government. It's just, they bring up open enrollment so they can raise the prices every year.
Mhm.
Literally, we don't have a open enrollment. So once you're on our plans, you're on. Okay,
Mhm.
that's it. Now, um, our plans, have the potential to increase year after year,
Mhm.
but the reason that they would increase, and they increase anywhere from like 3 to 5%, potentially. That's because you're another year older, and
Mhm.
some years they're not going to increase here. So I've been with the company just about 5 years, okay,
Okay.
and the first 3 years, most of our plans didn't increase in price at all, okay.
Mhm.
Now, in the past couple of years, given the economic environment, we've seen a few increases happen, and it's been about 3 to 5%. But look at the ACA marketplace.
Mhm.
If you file a claim, if all of a sudden you get a raise and making more money,
Mhm.
the increase is not 3 or 5%. It's more like 15 to 20%
Oh, wow.
increase.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a very large increase in premium that you'll see from year to year. And
Mhm.
a lot of people saw it with the government this year, where all of a sudden they um, discontinued the COVID supplement, where no longer that people that were making $100,000 and more were getting the subsidy from the federal government. That discontinued. Okay,
Mhm.
so now their health insurance with the government is on average of what I've seen about $500 more. Now those
Wow.
people that were making 30 or 4, I forget what the time, about $40,000 and less, continue to get their subsidy. So
Right.
that's good. But that being said, if you are getting a subsidy, I have seen clients where they run into a agent that
Mhm.
does government health plans, and I have the ability to do that. It takes a lot of time, uh,
Right.
but they'll go in there, and that person who's signing up on government plans will not put in their income correctly and say they
Mhm.
make less than that. And then when they come times to do their taxes, if that person hasn't done adjustments, they'll get some serious penalties on that. And so you have to be really careful if you're
Right.
taking a government subsidy, because when you get penalties, and I had a few of my customers actually have experienced that, they're like, Robert,
Mhm.
man, that's brutal. And
Right.
like, well, let's stay away from that. I would much rather, if you need to be on a government plan, do it, but don't take the subsidy.
Mhm. Mhm. That's so amazing. So in the beginning of your interview, you were saying that you can help a lot of small business owners, self-employed. So
Right.
let me ask you this: why do so many self-employed, like I'm self-employed, all right,
Hmm.
or people that are freelancers, or like you said, small business owners,
Hmm.
why do most of this subgroup get, why do they end up overpaying, and then at the same time getting undercovered, right? Because you mentioned for a lot of things that they may not be covered without even knowing it, right? Because most people, when they get health insurance, they just imagine automatically think that, well, everything's going to be covered, right? Because you mentioned a little bit about the deductible and what is covered, what isn't covered, and everything. So, can
Right.
you
Well,
touch
the
on that?
biggest sticking point for everybody, and even with our plants, is pre-existing conditions.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have, and that's for we have three plans.
Okay.
We have two underwritten plans, which, plans you have to qualify for.
Hmm.
And we have a guaranteed issue plan, which anybody can qualify for. I mean, anybody.
Hmm.
And all the the two underwritten plans, if you have pre-existing cancer, meaning if you've had cancer within the past 10 years, or you
Hmm.
have diabetes or some sort of condition like that, you won't be approved for it. On the guaranteed issue plan, if you've had a pre-existing condition and you've had treatment for it within the past 12 months, it
Hmm.
will not be covered. So when I have clients that, those situations come up, then we have to discuss it and be darn
Hmm.
sure that, hey, if all of a sudden you had cancer and you
Okay.
had any sort of treatment over it, but you've kind of been several years without of it, but in the last 12 months you haven't had anything done, and we have to be
Hmm.
sure and we have to check everything, then
Right.
you're okay. It's especially okay if you sign up and you've been 12 months on the plan your next year and nothing has heard, then
Hmm.
and then something happens, then you're in the clear. Just
Hmm.
a few of my customers have been, wow, that's kind of a risk, I don't know
Right.
if I want to take that. And that's
Hmm.
something that we discuss and we find out what is the best thing. And sometimes the best thing for them to do is be on the government marketplace plan. And some of them actually go on the government marketplace plan and our guaranteed issue plan because it can subsidize the government marketplace plan. Because remember, the government marketplace plan is an HMO. That
Mm.
means you're assigned a primary care physician, and then that physician you have to get. He tells you to go see all his buddies as far as specialists and everything. So you
Right.
get a little bit more flexibility if you have our guaranteed issue plan, and the fact that you can choose your own doctor and hospital and it's subsidized. And once you're already there, it's a little tricky, but you can make it work. I'm not going to say it's automatic, but
Hmm.
it does make things work. And then you can select your doctor and go there. And then all of a sudden, if you need to have something, you have this government plan. Oh, yeah, we take that too. But it's a little involved and we can make it work. It's just not easy, not
I love
automatic.
that. You mentioned a little bit about HMO and PPO. Can you quickly describe what the difference is? Because I bet you a lot of people don't know. I got an HMO plan, I got a PPO plan. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, HMO is God, I forget that half the time myself anyway. But PPO is primary preferred organization,
Hmm.
and that means basically you get to choose your doctor or hospital. That's the PPO
Mm.
is
Okay.
what you want. Okay,
Like
and
not off a list. You can actually choose your own.
yeah, you choose
Okay.
your doctor to the doctor or hospital, okay,
Okay.
or clinic or whatever.
Hmm.
And with ours, there are nationwide networks, and even with
Right.
ours, if you choose your doctor
Hmm.
or hospital and they happen to be out of network, you
Hmm.
know, the insurance still works. You
Right.
just don't get the discount of being in network. You don't
Hmm.
stretch your dollar as far. It's like, oh no, it's out of network. We're not paying anything. No, that's not
Hmm.
the case. We'll still pay the benefit that is in the insurance plan. You're just not getting the discount of the network to stretch your dollar as farther. So if
Hmm.
you stay in network, then you're usually getting the discount, which the discounts are incredibly substantial.
Hmm.
I can show any client explanation of benefits, one after one after one,
Hmm.
how the discount is incredible. Just to go see a doctor is like 50%. Um, but out of network, there's no discount whatsoever. Then
Hmm.
on the HMO, Health Manage Organization,
Hmm.
that's where you're assigned a doctor,
Okay.
and then you have to, if you need to see a specialist, you have to go to that assigned doctor, your
Through the
primary
HMO doctor. Okay.
yeah, and then he refers you to a specialist and
Hmm.
then tells you where to go.
Right.
um, and there, that's a HMO, and that's what most people get frustrated to
Hmm.
because they're being told where to go. And if you're forced to be in to an HMO, you can work it to it. And some people are very satisfied with it,
Hmm.
but they have the wherewithal to identify that, okay, I'm going to be in an HMO. I'm going to make darn sure this HMO is where my hospital is, where my doctor is. He's going to be in that, and I'm going to
Hmm.
try to get it to where my doctor is my preferred doctor.
Hmm.
And I've seen a few people actually do that, but in most cases, that's not the case.
I love that. I love that. Let me ask you this as a final question for this segment. Um, what are some red flag phrases people say that tell you they probably need to change their coverage?
Well, the biggest thing that I see the phrases are like, man, I got this marketplace insurance
Hmm.
and it's not covering anything.
Hmm.
I have this huge deductible and so that's one thing.
Hmm.
The other thing is like, hey, I just got this brand new Blue Cross Blue Shield plan
Hmm.
and it doesn't cover emergency room or the hospitals one.
Wow.
And then
Okay.
I'll go, is that the Cigna plan? Because there's a brand new one that says it's a PPO and it's a
Hmm.
Cigna plan because there are a few of them. I mean, there are a few scams out there that we know of
Hmm.
that when we've dived into them, well, then we look at it and we know that they're in trouble and there's been some legal ramifications around that. But there's this PPO by Cigna that doesn't cover emergency room, hospitalization, or surgery, and we're kind of like, well, what does that cover?
What does it cover then? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
what we need,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, and they're paying $200 or $300 a month
Hmm.
just to go see a doctor's visit. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's
Wow.
and they're like, yeah, but it's a PPO. I was like, yeah, it may
Hmm.
be a PPO, but you need to. And then the biggest caution there is read what you're looking at. Look at the details of everything look at the network of what it is. And we try to pull up all the plans, because we get a lot of customers that say, hey, yeah, I like your plan, but hey, what about this plan over here?
Hmm.
And so we'll go pull the details of that plan and say, yeah, but it excludes this. It, doesn't cover mammograms, or it doesn't cover pap tests and everything on your wellness. It doesn't have wellness.
Hmm.
We'll just point out the differences between what ours does and what it doesn't, because sometimes our plans are not for everybody,
Hmm.
but all the coverages that are included, a customer will say, hey, and this is a big red flag. Hey, I found this plan and it's for $250 a month, and this is
Hmm.
a person who is maybe they're 55 years old, and I'm like,
Hmm.
well, is your employer is like, I'm self-employed and I'm paying the full amount, and I know
Hmm.
right away that that plan is not covering everything on that, or they get a shared plan.
Hmm.
A lot of these shared plans where they pay into a pool and then they file a claim, and
Hmm.
then the pool kind of selects what claims to pay and what claims not to pay.
Hmm.
Those can be very dangerous. I've heard on the grapevine a lot of nightmares about that,
Hmm.
because if the shared plan doesn't pay the claim, then the policyholder is entirely on the hook for that.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and I've heard other cases where that's worked very well. So
Hmm.
sometimes I don't know what to believe on that. So
Correct, correct,
I stay
correct.
away from that as long as I can, as long as
That
yeah, as much as I can, I guess. Yeah.
exactly. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Hmm.
So I love it. I love it. Let's take a short break, and
Okay.
then when we come back, I love to dive in why you're so different than everyone else. We'll be right
Okay.
back.
Sounds good.
Is your skin aging, dry, tired, and dull? Are you putting on more and more makeup to cover the fine lines and flaws? Now you don't have to. Coolness Skincare, developed by a middle-aged woman just like you. 2 years in formulating. Pearlescent face and eye serum cream with Schisandra berries and dragon's blood extract for your face, eye, and neck. And the vegan version, Deep Love Face Cream, featuring powerful blue tansy. This face cream is everything you are looking for. Feel your beauty. Visit coolness.com or scan the QR code for more information.
Welcome back to the Chronically Healthy Life show. So, let's get into the real difference maker here because over these last two segments, Robert's made it very clear that not all insurance options are created equal. And it's not not like most insurance that you buy it and after that it's like good luck, and if anything happens you're calling customer service, right? Because you mentioned that in the very beginning, that's how most sales
Hmm.
agents are, right? So
Yeah.
how exactly is Magnolia City Health Insurance different from what most people will find on their own?
Well, I think where we really make the difference is, is twofold.
Okay.
Is first and foremost, we, like I said before,
Hmm.
we are here for our customers the whole time.
Okay. Hmm.
When we sign them up, we don't just sign them up and leave and we're gone. When we reach out and try to reach out and touch our customers at least once a year.
Okay.
Oftentimes, more than that. A lot of
Hmm.
my customers are my friends, but I do like to reach out to them at least once a year and say, how are things going?
Hmm.
How is the policy working for you? Or what are your expectations for the year coming up? Is there anything happening? And then especially with my guaranteed issue customers, on them, with that plan, and if certain things coming up with them, what are their expectation? Are they expecting any surgeries, any procedures coming up this coming year? What what do they foresee coming down the line?
Hmm.
you know uh, any particular events happening? Are they getting married? Are they having baby?
Hmm.
All those life events that may be occurring.
Correct.
So that's the one thing that we're there all the time, because I mean, in those claims and making those claims, sometimes we tell our customers things that they don't want to hear.
Mm.
Um, as far as a claim, that yeah, that's the right. My biggest complaint is on a colonoscopy. We pay
Hmm.
$650 for a colonoscopy. Well, if you're going to get a colonoscopy these days,
Hmm.
even with our network discount,
Hmm.
it can be anywhere from $1,200 to $4,000.
Wow.
Depending
Okay.
on if you $4,000 at the hospital,
Hmm.
and if you're only paying $650 of that,
Hmm.
then you're going to be kind of pissed off if your insurance didn't pay any more of that. So
Right. Right.
I often tell my customers when I'm signing them up, that's the biggest complaint I have.
Hmm.
So the key there is finding a reputable clinic that can do that same procedure for a lesser amount,
Hmm.
um, but also knowing that colonoscopy is a colonoscopy, but when you really need your health insurance, that your
Hmm.
policy was built properly, because our policies are internally supplemented. Okay, so
Hmm.
they, like I said before, we have a $250 deductible, and they come with an association that have benefits within it that turn around and will pay your deductible for you and your max out of pocket. So it all of a sudden will change your co-insurance to 100% paid for
Hmm.
by the insurance company. All these things, I'm getting into the weeds a little bit here,
Right.
but if the plan is built properly, it will pay for itself And then the customer is like, okay, all I got to do is think about getting better, and the insurance company is going to pay for it by 100%. And that's what I try to do at the very start of it,
Hmm.
right away. And that may require a little bit more cost than
Hmm.
most, but if that, as I say, if it's done properly, you'll be, I get thanks about that all the time,
Hmm.
from my existing customers, like, thank God you bill it that way. So now all of a sudden I'm not responsible for paying a
Correct.
$13,500 max out of pocket. The plan paid that for me, and all I had to pay for was a $250
Hmm.
deductible, and it's taking care of itself. Wow. Or it was a sickness and you got a $40,000 check, and that went to the deductible, and now it's 100% paid for by the insurance company, and we're getting better. We have extra money because now we're out of work for a couple of months, and oh, by the way, you gave us that income protector, so it's giving us an extra $1,500 a month for
Hmm.
income to help us build it. So you built this right for us. We're taken care of. Um, that's a nice thank you that we get, and I'm like, good, we built this right. Thank you, Lord, that I did that. I took care of somebody, and the plan is working. So
Hmm.
it's nice to see when it's doing that, and it's actually working. I mean, it makes you feel like you've done your job correctly. And I know that some of the other agents, and I like to pick on Florida a little bit, because
Hmm. Yeah.
some of those Florida guys out there, they just build plans and they skip it down as much as can because they're selling on price.
Hmm.
And when they sell it on price, it's the cheapest thing there. But when somebody really needs it, it's not there for them to what they need it to do, without just really hitting their bank account and wiping them out.
Correct. Correct.
And and then when you call them up, to say, hey, what is this, they either have left the company or they're not taking
Hmm.
the phone call. That's not us.
Yeah.
we,
Okay.
we
That's crazy. Yeah.
we're there to say, how can we help you more, and make sure that all aspects of their policy are functioning and in gear and taken care of, because there may be things in their plan that haven't been triggered, that need to be triggered, that we know about by looking at it, that
Hmm.
do that. And that's what it takes. So I think by us being there, monitoring it all, and really, you know, doing the claims is what sets us aside
Hmm.
and sets us apart from everybody else. And the way that we build the policies,
Hmm.
the way they should be built.
Hmm.
So that's what I think steps me apart, because I am building health insurance security. I'm just not building a policy to throw it against the wall.
I love that because it sounds, I heard building a policy several times there, and I really want all our viewers out there to realize that Robert's building a customized individual plan specifically for you, right? Not just a general plan
Right.
that will be for Tom, Dick, and Harry,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
what about, added options? Like, are there added options, or is this just for emergencies?
Yeah, there are added options on there. And the one thing I haven't really mentioned here is,
Hmm.
the other thing that we try to gear this is we definitely try to gear towards budget, because that's
Hmm.
very important to people
Yes.
too, especially in these economic times.
Hmm.
So, we're trying to do that as well. But I've referred to many of the options out there. We have critical illness, we have income protector, we
Hmm.
have dental, vision, we have term life, we have what we call the association. And the association is what groups all our policies together,
Hmm.
especially in terms of, like, in the state of Texas, we offer the association. And the association is what groups all the individuals, all the small businesses together, and it acts like a big, huge group.
Oh,
Okay,
wow. Okay.
like group health insurance. But
Hmm.
that's why we're able to add that like a big group, and offer a little bit of a discount and everything
Hmm.
else, offer the big counts, and use that big network, a United Healthcare Choice Plus network, and
Mhm.
get the discounts that that provides by using, creating that big group. That's the advantage that we have, and taking that association and grouping all these policyholders together.
Right.
That's also used as a protection device.
Mhm.
That means that if a particular client all of a sudden used their policy and was costing the insurance company a lot of money because
Mhm.
of their claims, the insurance company couldn't just cancel that policy or change the terms of the policy. If they wanted to do that, they would have to cancel the policy, or change the terms of all the policies within that
Wow.
association of that state.
Mhm.
So just imagine how many that we have done. I mean,
Correct.
we do on average as a company over $3 billion a
Mm.
week. You
Wow.
know, that's how big this company is and how
That's
successful
amazing.
we are at helping people every day.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's an incredibly large number.
So, Robert, who are the people that's going to benefit most from working with you?
The people that benefits the most for me and the people that I look for, that I
Mhm.
try to get the word out. That's my biggest challenge, is letting people know that I'm here. Are
Mhm.
small businesses. Usually my sweet spot is about
Mhm.
small businesses with employees of 10 or under, uh, entrepreneurs, individuals, and families, because I specialize in individual plans.
Mhm.
Those are the people that are doing. The other group of people is like, if somebody has just left their company or left their job,
That's a big one.
and and are considering jumping on Cobra. I
Mhm.
always say, don't let the snake bite you,
Mhm.
because you might create a pre-existing condition during that 18-month period that you're on Cobra. It's much better, and especially if that employer doesn't participate in paying for Cobra.
Mhm.
So where you as the now individual by yourself have to pay for it all by yourself. I can guarantee you I can uh, be a lot less expensive, and usually my benefits are much more robust than what is
Mhm.
being offered on Cobra on that. And many times your next job, there's a 50-50 chance that you might be able to get your next job to pay for the plan that I'm offering,
Mhm.
or that and that those benefits are better than what your new job is offering. So
That is
50-50.
so amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So, what about like young adults? Because I know there are plans where I guess young adults they phase out right from their
Oh
benefit
yeah.
plan.
It differs from state to state, but in the state of
Okay.
Texas, when you turn 26, that's when you phase off of your parents' plan. So if you're just graduating college,
Hmm.
or even if you go to college and your parents are, your parents are on a plan and you're going outside of state, like my daughter's at LSU,
Hmm.
she was on my plan, and so it didn't matter.
Correct.
She has doctors and hospitals that are in LSU too. She was on a PPO, nationwide coverage.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you're going to college, it's great to get on our one of our plans that are
Hmm.
very, very low price, because you're in your 20s. If you're 26 looking at it, you get on a private PPO plan. Um, those are people that I'm constantly looking for, that are
Hmm.
in between, or real young. I'm also looking for young couples that are starting a family, because we just
Hmm.
now started to cover maternity on one of our
Yes.
plans, which is a big, big thing. For the longest time we did not cover maternity.
Hmm.
There are three things that we do not cover on most of our. Maternity was one of them, but
Hmm.
we do cover that on one of our plans now,
Amazing.
which is great. But we don't cover drug and alcohol abuse, and we don't cover mental illness on
Hmm.
that. There is a part of mental illness that we call, but for the most part, we don't cover it all.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay.
I love that. I love that. What about retirees? Right.
Retirees. So
Yes.
all our plans are up to the age of 65.
Okay.
Okay. They cover you till you turn 65, and then when you go to 65, you go to Medicare.
Hmm.
And I work very closely with the guy in my BNI group who is fantastic with all the A, B, C, D, E, and F plans of Medicare. He's a
Right.
specialist, and all he does is Medicare.
Hmm.
So that's another tip. If you ever find somebody that says they do health insurance and Medicare, run, because they're not a specialist in either one,
Mm.
and that is problematic for me, because I like to work with specialists who really know what they're doing. And if they're doing
Correct.
both of those, then they don't know either one very well. And that has been my experience of working with those folks,
Mhm.
especially on the Medicare side. And now that I have this particular individual who works strictly with me, it's a breath of fresh air, and he's fantastic.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wow, there's so much that you taught us today on our show, Robert. For someone that is watching right now and realizing they just might not have the right coverage, what's the first step they should take?
Well, you can call. First step to reach me. You put your QR code here in the bottom
Hmm.
right hand corner. That has all my contact information, phone number. Actually has a link to schedule an appointment with me,
Hmm.
my website, and even my email. Email is always a great way to reach me at
Hmm.
Robert at magnoliacityhealthinsurance.com. And then there's several links on my website, which is magnoliacityhealth.com.
I love that. I love that. Well, if you're self-employed, maybe you're between jobs on Cobra, like because you're talking about Cobra, or you're
Right.
retiring early, adding family members to a plan, or just sick of paying too much money or for so little services, Robert is the person you want to talk to. Robert, thank you so much for being on our show today. And that's a wrap for today's show, people. Reach out to
Thanks for you
Robert.
having
All
me,
his
Andy. I
contact
appreciate it.
information is on there. Scan the QR code. Please reach out to him. At least get a consultation with Robert and see what he can do for you. And you might be surprised, right? Because I was surprised after talking with him and learned so much. It blew my mind how health insurance was not how I envisioned it. So, I encourage each and every one of you out there to reach out to Robert and, have a chat with him. Meanwhile, join us here every Friday at 7 p.m. CST on the e360tv.com on the Vitality TV network. Or, of course, you can watch all the past episodes on YouTube at Chronically Healthy Life. And always, we'll be happy for you to swing by our website, chronicalhealthylife.com, to elevate your longevity. And of course, check out our brand new skincare. Until then, stay vibrant, stay fierce, and stay ridiculously, unapologetically, chronically healthy. See everyone next Friday. Goodbye now.
Thanks, Andy.